describing it. I described it to a friend of mine. He had no clue what I was doing. I just kind of just calling him, and boom, laid it on him. We still don't talk to the day. You know, it kind of ruined the friendship, but you got my shit on point though, so it's all good. So anyway, if you hear yourself verbalize it, you may rekindle or, you know, reflow those juices of creativity and kind of re-identify keywords or discover new keywords that you didn't realize you knew before. When you're writing, it's very easy to get in your own way. Don't do that. You know, it's especially being a writer, you want to allow the reader to discover what's in your head. That's not fully possible. You know, there's always plenty that you just can't put in words, and those are your gems. Kind of keep those things, keep them hidden, keep them buried, but don't stumble over yourself. Don't be your worst enemy. That's not the way to go. You know, you got enough shit to worry about. Don't have to worry about you. You know what I mean? So, physical, I'm not going to dive too much deeper into this. I'm going to move on from it, but I think you guys understand what I'm saying. Keep it realistic. Write down the bullet points. Verbalize it to somebody else. Creative juices, flow, but don't overdo, don't underdo, just do. Number 3 would be fit the bill. So the third point of consideration, fit the bill kind of discusses its impact of personality to each character. Now, what I mean by personality of a character is it's a really tricky concept. It's a little bit more than just stating, oh, he's a good guy, high five. Now, remember the other things you put in play, rules number 1 and 2, Sight for Sore Eyes, and your human resources. That's going to play into your character as well now. You see the trickle effect? 1, 2, now into 3. Now, there's multiple ways you can kind of play a character's personality and bring it to light for the reader without overbearing them. A good way to do it is monologuing, inner narration. What I mean by inner narration would be, for example, if you have a psychopathic killer who's just messed up, you know, tore up from the floor up, this guy may speak very clear, you know, concise, gory, horrible details in his head, but when he speaks to anyone else outside of his own head, it may come out a different way. It may come out more authentic, more slanged, more rugged, which allows the reader to go, oh, damn, this dude's fucking jacked up in his head, which is good. You want that. You want that oh, wow kind of factor for each character, no matter how big or small. It also allows room for you to kind of play around when you have an established emotion for a character. It gives you more ways to introduce things, outside factors, to your story by using subtlety. You know, like if I have a Joker type character, he's funny, happy, you know, always go lucky. If I bring in a factor, a character, a situation, whatever the case may be, and his demeanor changes to where he's now aggressive, uneasy, just completely offbeat, that allows your reader to have a sense of awareness of your story. You're on point, they're on point. Now they have bewilderment. You know, they have that oh shit factor. Like what is going on now? Why is this guy acting different? So something to keep in mind. Your characters' personalities and stuff may change as stories progress. That's perfectly fine. If you have a hard time progressing your character, think of where your storyline starts and where you want it to end. That always helps. You know, that can allow you to bridge the gap. I don't mean write your ending first. Some people do that. I don't do that. I can't. If I do that, I'll kind of just bullshit fill the interior, and that's just not fair to my readers. It's not fair to my content. So, a big case would be just write out where you want your character to end up. Do you want them to have a sense of clarity, inspiration, self-disgust, he's disgusted by what he did, or whatever the hell the situation may be. But if you need to overview that out the gate, There's no shame in that game. So, just a little helpful tip for you. To carry on with it, always allow your character to vocalize their opinion either internally or externally. Now, this gives another layer to your character, his belief layer, which is another section to which your readers can connect to, latch onto, identify with, or just raw dog hate. All right, so there's once again inner monologue. I don't know if you can tell already, but I'm a huge fan of inner monologue. If using that kind of helps me get information out the best, especially if I'm doing like a third person or a first person narration, inner monologue, I like to change characters a lot. It allows me to voice a strong opinion on whatever it may be, and that gives your character, he or she, a complete separation and individuality towards your story. So keep that in mind. Always have an opinion. A major factor you need to stay away from, other than your metahuman theory, your metahuman trait trap, get away from too much laziness. Too much laziness is lazy. If you have a lead character, that is not much of a go-getter, not much of a get up and get it done, not much of a doer, you need to counteract that dynamic. You need to make a character that is, in fact, the driving factor or a counterbalance to that laziness. That evolves your story. If you have 12 dudes who are just lazy as fuck, sitting in the living room, smoking a J, that's pretty much what the story's going to be in a week. There's no reason for those characters to evolve out. Pineapple Express, I don't know why I'm on that subject, but Pineapple Express is a good one. One is a doer, one's a lazy guy. The doer's always doing stuff, the lazy guy's trying to hide in the dumpster. That's just how it goes. Always have that counter player. Think of it this way, the Newton's third law. That's what you need to do. Keep the Newton's third law in effect. To every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Just think of it as in your character trait. Always allow a counter character, either positively or negatively. Either way, that will push your storyline, I promise. Pushing through dialogue. This is a big bad one. A lot of people have a hard time writing the dialogue. I'm not going to cover much on writing the dialogue because I have way too much information, way too many little tricks to do that, and I don't want to get stuck in that rabbit hole. So I'm just going to go on a good way to approach the dialogue. So every character needs their own style of communication. All right? This style will be affected by once again, the 1 through 3, the social status, possibly size, weight. He may be a lot more timid. If he's a small guy and he has a Napoleon complex, he may be hyper aggressive. Keep in mind the share factor where your character, though he is his own person, though he or she are their own person, they are, living their own journey. This could be a commonality with somebody in which they have a long history with. I make a great example. My media partner, he owns a show, he runs another YouTube show. He does crazy stuff like eat, tarantulas and 32-year-old sodas is nasty, is nuts. It's Balspo, BALDSPO, hashtag Balspo. I've known him for going on close to 20 years. If me and him are in a room, we automatically adapt a unique way of speaking to each other. So I could sit there and say words to him and kind of have an unspoken language, more body language, more of an understanding, an inner understanding, where I don't have to define too much to him. He already knows. We both grew up in Staten Island. We were both New Springvillers. So, very little needs to be said. If you put me in the room with somebody who I've only known for 3 to 4 years, well, that's a different story now. Now I'm going to change the way I speak to them. I'm going to be more catering to the way they're receptive of the way I talk. If I'm with a sibling, once again, that's the shared commonality. Siblings, longtime friends will have that, oh, you sound like your brother, you sound like your sister, you sound like your mom, you sound like your best friend. That can be notable, especially in dialogue. Subtle differences like that really adds a layer to it. It adds a substantive layer to your story, adds a believability, and it adds an authenticity, once again, to your characters as long as it's consistent. Now, don't forget the character relationship of dialogue. Like, for example, your boss to an employee, your spouses, lovers, nemesis to hero, hero to supporting team, non-primary characters to primary, or non-primary characters to whatever the shit they do. A character first learning something for the first time from somebody who knows too much about it. There's a huge difference. If you speak to somebody about an interest of theirs, they get they talk fast, they get upbeat. It's like someone's giving them a shot of adrenaline, and they're ready to go, and they'll tell you everything about it. It's like a little kid first day. When my 7-year-old gets home from school, she's going to tell me all about her day, and I'll sit and listen. But that's the dynamic. That's the relationship. Father, parents. She's going to be excited about things. I'm going to be receptive, but the sternness, the alpha, relationship, that's in play as well. So when you have a character interacting with another character who has that relationship dynamic, make sure you play that. Make sure you play that out. It would be pretty naive to have, a content of that substance and not do it. No bueno. Don't do it. That's just not good. So the number 5, it's environmental. Now, the environmental situation is, though it kind of takes your character out of himself, it's out of the way people have normally been seeing him. Environmental is the outside factor. So if I have a pretty mellow, nonchalant, soft-spoken character who is hanging out in his home, he just got home from whatever the hell he's doing, he's chilling, he doesn't scream, doesn't get frantic, and his house gets caught on fire, his TV blows up, someone comes in and shoots his wife, someone chops his leg off, shoots his foot, or vice versa. A soft-spoken wife, husband's hanging out, she walks in the living room, and the dude's hanging from a chandelier. That's going to draw a different tone from your character. Language, the actual linguistic usage, the usage of their verbs, the words, their dictionary may change completely. If they're very soft-spoken, very, very articulate, they may scream out, fuck. Dude's dead. Yeah, happens. So, it does happen, I guess. So, I don't hope it doesn't happen to nobody. There you go. There's my good deed for the day. Hope no one gets murdered or hung from a chandelier. America. So the situational comprehension may change for a character. Like what situation the character may have felt uneasy with before or shocked by before may not impact the way they react or the way they interact as much if it happens again or a similar thing happens again. Soldiers in war. You shoot at them the first time, they're going to be shell-shocked, they're going to be frozen, nervous, allow the training to take over, muscle memory. The second time around, they become more of a leadership. They can identify, react to contact, figure out which sector, which zone it's coming in from, scan it. It's a lot changes the second time around, and that's just a good, a good secondary tidbit of data you might want to just keep in there. This also allows another hook point for dry stretches of content. And what I mean by hook point would be a situation that brings the situation that brought your character outside of themselves, that was unbecoming of them, could ultimately develop into a primary point of the storyline. So keep that in mind when you start hitting those dry, long stretches of content. that shit helps. And on top of that, it really does kind of